Kailasa means crystal in Sanskrit. The Tibetan name is Gang Rinpoche, meaning precious jewel of snows. Mount Kailash is the home of Lord Shiva. It is the crown chakra of the earth. Tibetan saint Milarepa said, "This snow mountain is the navel of the world, a place where the snow mountains dance." A Kora, or circumambulation of Mount Kailash, and a dip in the waters of nearby Lake Manasarovar removes the sins of all lifetimes.
It's ultimate. This is the ultimate place. Creation of universe started from here. And the Lord Shiva is there, nearby Manasarovar.
If you head upstream on the longest rivers of Asia, the Ganges to its main tributary, the Karnali, the Indus, the Brahmaputra, or the Sutlej, you end up at the same place in Western Tibet, Mount Kailash.
I started reading this description or this story of this trip to Kailash to my husband. And as I started reading it, all of this energy started coming in me. And I was merely about one sentence into the story, and I just started weeping. And the house just started filling up with this incredible light and energy and presence. And I could barely get through word after word of this beautiful story without weeping. And my husband, of course, this phenomenon got infectious, and my husband started having this spontaneous opening also to whatever this divine space is that we were being made privy to. And of course, how do I know? How can I divine how God works or how the divine works? But it was obvious that Mount Kailash came in and gave us an invitation and opened our hearts, and we knew by the time I finished reading this short story of one page that we were probably going to be taking this trip.
I had visited India a couple times, and I was really charmed and enthralled with the experience of going to holy tirthas on some of the rivers and some of the temples, and I had thought that it would be good to visit some of the Himalayan temples, and then when I heard about Kailash, it just sort of, the thought wouldn't go away.
This is one of the most difficult places in the world to get to. Only a few thousand pilgrims make the journey each year. Mount Kailash is so sacred, it is forbidden to climb it. At 22,000 feet above sea level, it is the most significant mountain on Earth that has never been climbed. Mention of the Mount Kailash Yatra, or pilgrimage, is made in the Ramayana, Mahabharata, and the Skanda Purana. I was first introduced to the knowledge of the Vedas and the wisdom of the Himalayas when Maharshi Mahesh Yogi invited me to study with him and immerse myself in the Rig Veda, Samaveda, and the Brahma Sutras.
The finest impulses of consciousness are those which we find in the Rig Vedas, hymns. Hymns are just the expressions of the realities on the ultimate level of relative life, pulsations on the level of unbounded consciousness.
This journey includes visits to a dozen sacred places. My first stop was Chengdu in Sichuan province in southwestern China. The Wenchu Buddhist monastery in central Chengdu is dedicated to the God of Wisdom. It was founded during the Tang Dynasty and has over 200 buildings and over 400 statues of Buddha. Chengdu is one of the few remaining Chinese cities with an authentic tea house culture. Mount Ame means the towering eyebrow mountain. It is the most popular of the 4 sacred Buddhist mountains of China. Each mountain is considered to be the dwelling place of a bodhisattva, a spiritual guide for seekers on the path to enlightenment. Mount Ame was once covered with 100 monasteries, but only 50 remain. When I started to explore the Grand Buddha of Leishan National Park, I felt like Indiana Jones discovering one of the world's great treasures. This park is the Chinese equivalent to the Valley of the Kings in Egypt. Construction on the giant Buddha began in 713 during the Tang Dynasty and took 90 years. There is a local saying, "The mountain is a Buddha, and the Buddha is a mountain." During the Chinese Great Leap Forward in the 1950s and the Cultural Revolution of the 1960s, Buddhism and Taoism were brutally suppressed, and more than 90% of China's temples and great cultural artifacts were completely destroyed. Mount Ame and the Grand Buddha of Leishan were protected and provide a glimpse of China's great spiritual heritage. One of the first statues that I encountered within the park was not of Buddha but Shiva, and I was surprised to see how Hinduism commingled and blended with Buddhism, even in China. The giant Buddha is the largest stone Buddha in the world. It sits 233 feet tall. When you think of Buddha, you think of friendliness, compassion, and serenity. I received that darshan, or blessing, from the giant Buddha and this tiny Buddha. Giant pandas are a Chinese national treasure. The Giant Panda Breeding and Research Center is located just outside of Chengdu. There are less than 1,000 pandas surviving. 80% of them live within small forests in the Sichuan province. Giant pandas, red pandas, and over 20 species of rare animals are fed and bred here throughout the year. Next, I flew over the highest and most majestic mountains on Earth, the Himalayas, on my way to Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal. Durbar Square, famous for its medieval pagoda architecture, is the home of the royal Kumari, the living goddess. Kumari is a young girl who is selected by the Hindus much like the Buddhists select the Dalai Lama. In this case, a young girl is chosen from the same clan in Nepal that the Buddha came from. After she reaches puberty, she retires and another living goddess is selected. Candidates must be in excellent health, never have shed blood, or have been afflicted by any diseases. Girls who pass these basic eligibility requirements are examined for the Bodhis Lakshanas, or 32 perfections of a goddess.
Sarava Shakti, Sarava Shakti, Sarava Shakti, Namo Namo.
Patan is the second largest city in the Kathmandu Valley and is located on the southern bank of the Holy Bagmati River, 5 kilometers southeast of Kathmandu. It is called the City of Fine Arts and sometimes referred to as Lalitpur, which means City of Beauty. The diversity of medieval culture that allowed both Hinduism and Buddhism to coexist has left a rich legacy. Patan's central Durbar Square is packed with temples. It is an architectural feast with a greater concentration of temples per square meter than in Kathmandu or nearby Bhaktapur.
Sarva Shakti, Sarva Shakti, Sarva Shakti, Namo Namo.
Nice mandalas. This shiny 24 karat gold, real gold, polarized to powers.
Pashupati is the site of the most important Shiva temple in the world. A lingam arose on this spot representing Shiva as Pashupatinath, Lord of Beasts. The Bagmati River at Pashupati is considered as sacred as the Ganges itself.
Pashupatinath is a temple in Kathmandu which has a Shiva Linga, and that Shiva Linga is taken to be, it's referred to as the Ati Linga, the first Linga, the Supreme Linga. Westerners are not allowed to have darshan of the Linga itself directly, but you can still go to the temple, you can get the feeling of the environs, and you can circumambulate the temple. It takes about 30 minutes to walk around the temple.
This is the holy day of Teague. Teague is a 3-day festival that honors the goddess Parvati, wife of Shiva, and the symbol of utter devotion and love. Married women in their red wedding saris are praying for a happy conjugal marriage. Single women pray for a husband. It is said that on this day, goddess Parvati reunited with her consort, Lord Shiva. Mata Parvati went through rigorous fasting and a penance of 100 years. She took 108 births to be accepted by Lord Shiva in the form of his wife. This auspicious day is celebrated to honor Parvati for her true love and positive spirit.
Adi Shakti, Adi Shakti, Adi Shakti, Namo Namo. Sarva Shakti, Sarva Shakti, Sarva Shakti, Namo Namo.
Pashupati is also sacred to Buddhists and is the home of the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, who, like Shiva, is known as Lokeshwar, Lord of the world. The mantra of Avalokiteshvara is Om Mane Padme Om. The most iconic, enigmatic, and important Buddhist stupa or temple in Kathmandu is Swayambhunath, also known as the Monkey Temple. On each of the 4 sides of the main stupa, there are a pair of big eyes. These eyes are symbolic of God's all-seeing perspective. There is no nose between the eyes, but rather a representation of the number 1 in the Pali alphabet, signifying that the single way to enlightenment is through the Buddhist path. Above each pair of eyes is the 3rd eye, signifying the wisdom of looking within. No ears are shown because it is said that the Buddha is not interested in hearing prayers in praise of him. On the other side of Kathmandu is the highest Buddhist stupa in the world at Bodhinath. The monks in these monasteries have been chanting these prayers for centuries. We are beginning our 5-day overland journey from Kathmandu to Western Tibet. The major highway between Nepal and Tibet consists of unpaved one-lane roads with lots of rock and mudslides. There are no guide rails and few signs. Nepal is a lush green Shangri-La, in contrast to Tibet, which for the most part is treeless and barren. The border town between Nepal and Tibet is Koldari, what I consider to be the world's largest truck stop. Chinese trucks congregate on one side, Nepali trucks on the other side. Everything has to be hand-carried across the border because trucks aren't allowed across the Friendship Bridge. Two of the massive continental plates that form the surface of the Earth collided and overlapped to create a wide sky-high plateau in the Himalayas, nearly 3 miles above sea level, the Qingzheng Plateau. The tallest peaks of the Rockies and the Alps would barely reach the Tibetan Plateau. It is the rooftop of the world. The Tibetan Plateau also contains the world's third largest store of ice and is the water tower for most of Asia.
시원하다 시원하다. 다 시원하다 거.
시야지타에 누구세요?
소야라소.
야라소. 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 라소.
Lake Manasarovar, at an altitude of 15,000 feet above sea level, is the highest freshwater lake in the world. It was created by Brahma, the god of creation. He had a mind, Manas, to create a lake, Sarovar. Located at the southern base of Mount Kailash, Lake Manasarovar is famed for its exceptional beauty. Its color changes from clear blue around the shores to a deep emerald green in the center. The Kora, or parikrama around the lake, is 64 miles and takes about 4 days. Hindus believe the goddess Parvati has taken the form of the lake, and anyone who drinks the water from the lake will go to heaven. According to Buddhism, this is where the Buddha was conceived. The Buddha's mother was transported here by the gods. She bathed in the sacred waters of Mansarovar until her body was purified. She then saw a white elephant running to her from Mount Kailash as the Buddha entered her womb. When the earth of Manasarovar touches anyone's body or anyone bathes in the water, he shall go to the paradise of Brahma. He who drinks its waters shall go to the heaven of Shiva and shall be released from the sins of 100 births.
And then we walked around Mansarovar we walked about 60 or 70% of the distance around Mansarovar in the course of 3 days of walking with 1 day of rest interposed in there.
Mount Kailash is unique in that it rises up from the highest point of the Tibetan plateau, like the hub of a giant wheel. For well over 1,000 years, pilgrims have journeyed here to pay homage to the mountain's mystery, circumambulating it in a ritual that continues to this day. Their faith proclaims that not just the mountain's ice-capped summit, but the entire region is the abode of the gods.
Kailash was an extraordinary experience of Shiva. Shiva is described in the Vedic literature as infinite silence, immovability, stability, non-change. And the experience of being right face to face with Kailash is just that personality of massive silent stability manifest in the relative world. And the mountain has a tremendous personality about it, that from a distance, looking across Manasarovar, the experience of Dure Drisham Grihapatim Ataryum, that the master of the mansion is in the far, far distance. It has that quality of royal sovereignty about it.
The core of Mount Kailash is around 36 miles and takes one long day for Tibetans, 3 days for everyone else, and 16 days if you're prostrating.
You will see Kailash is right, not even 100 meters away from you, okay? And you see the big black mountain there?
Yeah. Yes.
So it is also not fully open. Once you see that, you'll feel like that bull is sitting.
That's Nandi.
That is Nandiji, and in front of Nandiji you'll see the Kailash, okay?
My travel mates were a little disappointed that we had gotten so close to the face of Mount Kailash, but it was covered in clouds. Fortunately, one of our Siddha travelers has mastery over the bhutas, or elements, and promised to clear the clouds. He closed his eyes in a deep meditation. Sure enough, after he opened his eyes about 40 minutes later, the clouds disappeared.
But then when you, on the parikrama, you're right up face to face with this wall of immovable silence. And it's quite a dramatic experience that deepens, interestingly enough, as the days and weeks and months pass, having done the parikrama.
According to the ancient scriptures, the abode of Creator Brahma is called Brahmaloka. The abode of Lord Vishnu is called Vaikuntha, and the abode of Lord Shiva is called Kailash. Of the three, one can only go bodily and return in this life from Kailash, having experienced divinity. It is said that the sacred Ganges River that flows through India tumbles down from the heavens to earth, falling first onto the head of Shiva to soften the impact. Most holy of all the rivers, the Ganges is considered pure and sacred. Shiva resides at the renowned Mount Kailash, also known as Mount Meru, the center of the world. The flagpole at Tarbushe is covered with prayer flags and stands some 80 feet high. At this location, the most important annual festival is held. This festival is called Sagwadawa, and it takes place on the full moon of the 4th lunar month. Pilgrims from all over Tibet gather at this sacred place to ritually take down the flagpole to replace the old prayer flags with new ones. According to a description in the Vishnu Purana, Mount Kailash is the center of the world mandala and is located at the heart of 6 mountain ranges, symbolizing a lotus. The 4 rivers flowing from Kailash then flow to the 4 quarters of the world and divide the world into 4 regions. Unlike the range of the Himalayan peaks to the south, Kailash stands isolated on the Tibetan highland. The mountain itself appears like a great symmetrical dome temple, coated with ice and snow, shining white and dominating the landscape from every direction around it.
Just ran into more and more pilgrims of all different kinds, Tibetan Buddhists, Jain, Hindu, and also the Bonpo, which is the pre-Buddhist religion of Tibet, and they walk around the mountain counterclockwise, while the rest of us walked around clockwise. And everybody would all see one another, we'd all bow in prayer to one another because we all knew we were there for the same reason. And the smiles on everybody's faces just got wider and wider the more we walked and around this mountain. Our hearts were just being burst wide open.
We will camp tonight in a meadow below the west face of Kailash, before trekking a short distance to Dirapuk, where we will rest before attempting the steep climb over Dolmala Pass.
We got permission from our Chinese guide to go up and camp up near the north face of the mountain, which is the closest face that you can actually get to for actually touching the mountain. Where I had that wonderful time just with myself and the Absolute. And I must say, the silence was very loud there. If a silence can be loud, it was deafening, actually. I felt like it enfolded me into itself. My life would be changed forever.
Crossing the steep Dolmala Pass at 18,500 feet above sea level is what separates saints from mere mortals. The crossing over this pass represents a transition from the former life to a new one, with all the previous sins forgiven. Dolmala means she who helps cross. This is the path of redemption and salvation, and is said to be where the pilgrim is reborn. At the highest point of the pass is where the pilgrims leave their prayer flags and gifts. It was windy, cold, and snowy, so we couldn't stay long before beginning the even steeper climb down. Gauri Kund is connected with Shiva's wife Parvati. She is known as Gauri in various parts of India. Gauri committed herself to penance involving many ascetic and yogic practices to win over Shiva's affections. Local tradition claims that Gauri Kund is the spot where Gauri lived while carrying out these practices. We are now over Dolmala Pass. Once over the pass, you lose sight of Mount Kailash. After camping another night, we visited the Zudalpuk Buddhist Monastery, which is located on the right bank of the Zongchu River. Some of the most venerated objects within the monastery are some stone relics with Rangjung footprints that are said to belong to many Buddhist saints, including Gotchangpa, Karmapa, and Milarepa. Milarepa is considered one of Tibet's greatest yogis and poets, and one of the most important figures in Tibetan Buddhism. The essence of his teachings lies in his writings, the songs of Milarepa, and emphasize the need for non-attachment. final part of our Kora around Mount Kailash is a 12-kilometer trek back to the town of Darchen, where we started. The third Kora in this region is at Tirthapuri, about 45 miles northwest of Kailash. Tirthapuri means water sanctified by the touch of a god.
So welcome to the Tirthapuri in Sanskrit, Tirthapuri in Tibetan. 330 million god and goddess are residing here.
Going to Tirthapuri was a amazing revelation, I think, for myself, for most of us, because it's a secret of the Mount Kailash region that very few yatris experience. And it has the feeling of, there's that feeling of completion. And these hot springs that are there are the reason that the devatas all congregate in this very, very special place. That was a very nice conclusion to our yatra around Manasarovar and Kailash.
Anyone who gets a chance to go there, it's a major transformation. Cannot know the blessings that will happen in your life. As soon as I got on the trail, I felt like I was at home. I felt more at home there than I think I felt anywhere. So it was for me, it was a homecoming and a very soul satisfying. I had this knowing that I would never ever not be with the mountain. And it was an actual shock to me when we went around the corner from the north face to the west side, and I couldn't see it anymore. It was kind of a shock because there's so much present time there, so much now. I had the experience I was living so much in the now. There were so many chunks of the now and present time, and it was so God saturated that there wasn't anything about thinking about future or past. It was just one, like my cousin said, 1 foot at a time, 1 step at a time. And I'd always thought I'd be in the presence of the mountain. So, and talking about this and relating this, recounting this whole story to you has evoked that again. You know, it's evoked, I feel the darshan of the mountain again. The darshan is here.
In Chengdu, I stayed at the much-acclaimed Sim's Cozy Garden Hostel that I found on the internet. The best place to stay in Kathmandu is the Hotel Tibet. Sering Dolkar Lama and her staff treated us like VIPs. When we returned from our Kora to Mount Kailash, the entire hotel staff welcomed us back and showered us with flower petals. From the jewel box, we went to the toolbox. From luxury to primitive. Guest houses in Tibet don't have plumbing. While I love camping, there is no wood, no fires, no access to heat. On a journey like this, you remember the places, but bond with the faces. Kids were everywhere and were friendly and playful. Next time I go, I will take a big supply of comic books, coloring books, and crayons to give away. Everyone wanted a photo of themselves, so a Polaroid camera would have been handy. After planning this trip for 2.5 years, it almost didn't happen. 2 months before leaving on this trip, I broke my leg. I asked the doctor how long would it take to heal. He said about 6 weeks. After a month, I was walking in a cast and training. I checked with my doctor before leaving. He asked if there was any strenuous hiking or climbing involved. I had no idea.
Jig her down. Is it filming? Jig her down.
Don't ham it up.
Oh, sorry. Remember our dignity.
सच्चर परिपूर्ण शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं सच्चर परिपूर्ण शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं नित्यानन्द स्वरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं नित्यानन्द स्वरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् चर परिपूर्ण शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं
सच्चर परिपूर्ण शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं
सच्चर परिपूर्ण शिवोऽहं नित्यानन्द स्वरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं
नित्यानन्द स्वरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं
नित्यानन्द स्वरूप शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं.
So if you had the luck to have Maharshi's darshan, then you've had Kailash darshan. If you have had the privilege of practicing Maharshi's TM and TMC program, you go to Kailash every time you close your eyes.
आनन्दो